one. I'll just go with it. Welcome to Wisconsin Network for Peace and Justice 34th Annual Fall Assembly. I will be your host for this evening. Our entire assembly has been named Shaking the Roots, but for tonight it is United We Stand, Divided We Fall, Breaking Cycles and Changing Communities. I hope that you will enjoy the speakers that we have lined up for this evening. A little bit of housekeeping. Um, we will not answer any questions until after our last presenter has presented. And with no further ado, I'd like to, before I introduce our first presenter, I want to talk about empathy. Empathy, there's multiple kinds, but the two I want to highlight are compassionate and constructive. The first one being when you hear someone's story and you understand, but compassionate is the one when you hear someone's story and you want to help. I believe that these professional speakers will inspire everyone who's listening today to compassionate empathy. So our first speaker is a person who, on her own right, when I first met her, we just connected. She works tirelessly to help our community. And she works for the Wisconsin Health Department. She is a harm reduction specialist. And I'd like to introduce Cassandra Torres.
Well, thank you so much, Debra. That was such a kind intro.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so as Debra said, my name is Cassandra Torres. I work for the City of Milwaukee Health Department. I am the Harm Reduction Community Outreach Specialist, and I am also the point person for the Narcan Direct program. I spend a good portion of my time distributing free naloxone, which is another name for Narcan. Naloxone is the name of the medication. Narcan is the brand. But anyway, I also distribute free drug testing supplies that test the drug, not the person, to prevent a death, so that people can make sure there's not fentanyl in drugs. But I wanted to first start like with some grounding statements about like what I do and like what like the principles of harm reduction and prevention. Starting out with substance use disorders are treatable conditions. However, every person who dies from a substance or overdose does not have a substance use disorder. Addiction is most often a symptom of an underlying problem, and there are social, structural, and economic drivers within who is impacted in substance abuse. Also, data consistently shows that overdose deaths are higher for Black and Brown people in Milwaukee, as well as Wisconsin. And the community needs resources and support to combat this issue, not deaths to get rid of the problem. Like we need to help this issue. We also recognize that the social determinants of health affects people's vulnerability and their capacity for dealing with this type of harm. So what is harm reduction? Harm reduction is any positive change that people who use drugs are able to do. We aim for any positive change that could get them closer to starting recovery. And we must remember that recovery is not an end point. It is a lifelong journey. This could be a variety of things, including we have the fentanyl test kits so that people can test their drugs for fentanyl to prevent a death. Also providing education about trends in the local drug supply so that people can make their best informed decision about what they're putting into their body. Not using alone is also a form of harm reduction because that is the number one risk factor of dying from a substance. Another one that we use is chapstick. which prevents Hep C transfer through cracked lips. Um, we all
Mm.
we also support the needle exchange program, so that people can use a clean needle each time. And we must remember this is not people who use drugs are typically going to use them no matter if they have safe supplies or not. So we would rather the person does not become a person using drugs who also has Hep C or HIV, jaundice, cellulitis, or any other disease associated with drug use. Carrying naloxone Narcan is also a form of harm reduction because it reverses the death of someone who is overdosing on an opioid. And I also wanted to share, because this is a highly, stigmatic issue, I also wanted to share why this is an issue for the public, and why people who are using substances should be supported. Diseases that a person could acquire from drug use could be transmitted to a healthy person that is not using. It also helps public disorder. People who are visible, using on the streets and dying cause worry and stress for surrounding people, families, and children. Um, and then by providing the clean needles with the needle exchange reduces the amount of syringe litter that we see in our communities. So the people who are suffering from substance abuse disorders are also someone's parent, child, cousin, friend, loved one, and their death and lack of community support for them can adversely impact their circle for a lifetime. Um, Something to also remember is that although we're not putting money on humans, on souls, we also need to remember that it does save people money. Harm reduction saves money. It saves money and it saves lives. So it's like, why not save the life as well? It's not a waste, is what I'm trying to say. It reduced the costs related to deaths. It reduced disease control costs and treatment, public disorder costs, and much more. Again, with an emphasis on saving lives. And also, many times, access to harm reduction supplies can serve as a gateway to treatment and support. Um, I've heard often before that sometimes when people come to obtain harm reduction supplies, like that is their only positive human contact that the person has. And sometimes all it takes is one connection to save that person, to save that person's life and for them to start getting the help that they need. By providing the harm reduction items, it makes them feel like they can, even though that they're using, they can still come and get support without judgment. Um, and then everyone here probably already knows what naloxone Narcan is, but in case you don't, it is an opioid reversal medication. If somebody is overdosing due to an opioid, it reverses the overdose by removing the drug from the brain receptors, allowing the person to continue to breathe. Um, but lastly, I also wanted to share that if you or anybody that you know needs harm reduction items, I am able to provide those. And I can provide them in mass quantities too. If you need one or if you need 5 dozen, I'm able to provide those. Or if you're having an event and you want me to set up a table full of free harm reduction supplies, I can do that as well. Um, we have a harm reduction email. Um, if you guys want, I could send it to Debra and she could send it to everybody else, but it's harmreduction@milwaukee.gov. The only people who reply to that email is myself and one other person. So yeah, if anybody ever needs some harm reduction supplies, feel free to reach out to me. Um, I can also give anyone my phone number that's interested. Um, I'll say it right now, but if Deborah wants to share it with everyone later, she can. My contact number, and I text and call on this number, it's 414-758-1674. You know what, I could probably just put it in the chat. Yeah, I'll put it in the chat, with the email. Um, but yeah, that is all that I am sharing today. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank
And
you, Cassandra.
oh, no problem.
Our next presenter is a survivor who has turned her personal journey into a lifelong mission to serve. She proudly identifies as being a long-term recovery and now serves as a clinical coordinator for Wisconsin Community Service, where she manages 2 programs supporting adults with substance use and mental health challenges. Please welcome Michelle Laga of Wisconsin Community Services.
Thank you, Debra.
You're welcome.
When I first heard the theme of today's session, United We Stand, Divided We Fall, breaking cycles and building community, it really struck me because my own story is about breaking a cycle of addiction, shame, and silence, and finding community, purpose, and hope on the other side. I'm proud to say I've been in long-term recovery for over 14 years. My drug of choice was heroin, and for many years, addiction controlled every part of my life. My thoughts, my relationship, my future. When I stopped using in 2011, fentanyl hadn't yet become the deadly epidemic it is today. But over the past decade, I've lost multiple friends, people I loved, to fentanyl poisoning. One friend in particular had relapsed and wasn't even aware that the cocaine
She froze.
um, so I think I left off at, breaking the cycle of fentanyl poisoning starts with harm reduction. And you've heard some wonderful things from Cassandra. Um, I'm going to talk a little bit more, um, expand on that a little bit, and some of the work I've done as well. Um, so, yeah, harm reduction, that's where we as communities have real power to save lives. We must normalize giving out naloxone, also known as Narcan, to everyone, regardless of whether they report substance use. Every household, every workplace, every community center should have it. And it's not enough to just hand it out. We need to train people how to use it and make it a part of everyday safety, just like CPR or a first aid kit. At Wisconsin Community Services, we have taken this mission seriously. We have installed harm reduction vending machines in collaboration with Milwaukee County Behavioral Health Services, providing free naloxone, fentanyl, and xylazine testing strips, in addition to other harm reduction supplies to the public. The xylazine, yeah, we tested drugs, like Cassandra said. That's what you're able to do with the testing strips. Xylazine is a tranquilizer that's been found more and more in drugs, and naloxone does not work on it. But we still encourage, obviously, to use it because it reverses the opioid overdose. Um, but yeah, I had another friend that passed away from a fentanyl and xylazine overdose last year after over 6 years of sobriety. So I feel like if I were to go back out there, it wouldn't be long till I would not be here anymore. Um, so I'll add. So yeah, the vending machines, these machines save lives every single day. I also had the privilege of spearheading the naloxone distribution and training efforts at WCS. I expect my employees to hand out naloxone and test strips to every person served at every intake or initial meeting, regardless of reported substance use, and to always talk about overdose prevention. So the idea is like, even if maybe their neighbor or someone else in their house, or maybe someone in their house that they didn't they didn't realize uses substances, or maybe it's prescribed medication, and they forgot they took the dose already or whatever it is. Um, so this isn't just policy, it's a belief that it saves lives. I had multiple reports from people who used the naloxone we distributed to revive someone from an overdose. That is the real impact of harm reduction. Another life-saving tool is medication-assisted treatment, medication like Suboxone and methadone. Too many people are dying because of the stigma attached to these medications. They're seen as not real recovery, but here's the truth. We cannot help people if they are dead. MAT, or medication assisted treatment, gives people a regulated, safer path, a chance to survive long enough to build stability and pursue recovery on their own terms. And what saved lives just as much is compassion. When I was using, I hid it from everyone, not because I didn't want help, but because I was ashamed. The stigma, the judgment, the fear of being seen as less than human kept me silent. So we must create spaces where people feel safe to talk about their substance use without fear of rejection or punishment, because behind every addiction, there's pain, often rooted in mental health or struggles and trauma. Healing starts when someone feels seen, heard, and accepted, not shamed or dismissed. And not only that, with the whole harm reduction model, as Cassandra was talking about, I've been, people deserve the basics like a place, stable living environment, food, um, even if they use drugs, it doesn't matter, um, you know, what their recovery status or the amount or anything. So WCS has empowered me to do this work. They are the largest employer of peer specialists in the state of Wisconsin, with over 60 peer specialists working across programs, because they recognize the value of lived experience and peer support. Peers save lives through connection, understanding, and hope. This is where all of you come in as advocates, neighbors, and members of this powerful network for peace and justice. If we want to break cycles and build community, we must lead with empathy and unity. There's so much division, even within social work and social justice communities. One reason is competition for funds, and in general, I have seen this often in the people who ultimately suffer are the people we are trying to support. Please always keep the mission in mind. With that being said, um, I encourage everyone to carry naloxone, offer it to others, advocate for harm reduction programs in your communities, support policies that expand access to treatment, and support, peer support. Speak up when you hear stigma or misinformation about addiction. Every time we meet someone where they are with compassion instead of judgment, we weaken the cycle of harm and strengthen the fabric of our community. That's what I got. And I can put my contact information. I will add one. So and if you know someone in a Milwaukee County that's interested in treatment services, one of the departments I supervise, we do assessments, mental health and substance use assessments for people that are in need of services, whether that be community-based like peer support or case management or treatment, formal treatment. So I could put my information. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. That was pretty informative. I have a lot of questions from that. Our next speaker, our next presenter, excuse me, are two women leading the fight for equality and justice. They're on the front lines protecting voting rights, and amplifying the voices of families impacted by systematic justice. Please join me in welcoming Co-Executive Director Yolanda Perkins and Community Organizer Jessica Jacobs of Free.
Hi, everybody. So yeah, I'm Jessica. I am the Dane County Community Organizer for Free Movement. We're a statewide organization that works with women that are currently incarcerated or have been touched by the criminal justice system. I would say, first I want to say thank you, Cassandra and Michelle, for doing the work that you're doing. Harm reduction saved my life. But, you know, the criminal justice system took a bunch of it from me. So, but I'm here today to speak about that. So yeah, of course, my directly impacted experience has kind of led me to where I'm at today. I've done roughly most of my 20s incarcerated and about half of my 30s. And I've seen a lot of things inside of the system, inside the prison system, inside the jails, and the way that things ran. I noticed that there was just a lot of stuff that should not be going on inside of there. And then that was the beginning stages for me where I would see people being treated poorly inside of there, regardless of being incarcerated. I noticed those things and others didn't. And it stuck with me. And then through my whole incarceration, I just kept noticing things and noticing things. And then after I got out of the system, when I finally was able to get off of parole, I started to go to school after a couple of years. And I started to learn more about how deeply embedded these issues were in policy inside of our system. And so decided that I wanted to, you know, continue down the road in advocacy. And so, you know, I'm currently in school at UW-Madison. You know, I fought pretty hard to get in there. And, you know, I'm in the social worker program, and I've been a community organizer for Free Movement for, it'll be 2 years in March. And I'm just like really grateful to be here right now. And some of the work that I do out here in Dane County for Free Movement is a lot of stuff. I've been doing a lot of organizing around our housing campaign. Just as of recently, I was one of the lead organizers on an event we had here called Journey to Justice Bus Tour. And it's a national campaign called Unlock the Box that was a part of it. And it's to end solitary confinement, you know, as it being a torturous act that is used in our system here. And especially here in Wisconsin. So we hosted that event, and we were able to have a couple different legislators speak on that panel about the bill that they're trying to get passed dealing with solitary confinement here in Wisconsin. And it went really well. So some of those are some of the things that I do is like to bring awareness to our issues and the issues that are going on inside the prison systems. But we like to focus on the issues with women here in Free Movement. And some of the stuff that we do for awareness is have chapter meetings once a month. We also do a little bit of direct services by hosting circles of support here in Madison. I go inside our community service houses that are for women. They're alternatives to revocation, to going back to prison and to going to jail. And it's a treatment facility. So I go in once a month and I present, we do circles of support with them, and I build relationships with these women. And doing so, we're able to find other potential leaders to come and do the work with us that are directly impacted. And so that's just a little bit about what I do. And I'll go ahead and let Yolanda pick up from there, and she can give you some more details too.
Thank you, Jess. So hi everyone. My name is Yolanda Perkins, and I am the new co-executive director of Free. And so as we move forward and into 2026 and with our work, we ultimately have three branches of work that we do. So the first one we have is Heal It. So that's a lot of the circles of support Jess was talking about. a lot of our empowerment, our women empowerment series, but also where a lot of our leadership development happens. And then we have a section called Engage It. So Engage It is where we fight for our voter rights. It's where we do our voter mobilization. And then we have our Change It, which is more of our policy and our advocacy work. And so the big thing that we're working on now is infant mortality health. And we have a campaign around dignity. And so that includes working with the Women's Prison, Birth Prison Project. And then also in that entails our anti-shackling legislation that we're trying to get established. And so yeah, I mean, I invite you guys to hop on and follow us on Facebook. We're kind of in a little fight here for our rights. And our website is under construction. But for updates and our calls to action, please visit our Facebook page, which is Free Movement. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm going to drop my email in the chat too. So if anybody wants to reach out, is interested in being a part of the work that we're doing, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're always looking for other people to be a part of this work with us. We do leadership trainings. We do stuff where we teach people how to do one-on-ones in the community, how to community organize, basically, how to be able to step into those spaces and speak to those people. And that's some of the stuff that we do. So we'll drop our information in the chat.
Thank you, ladies. I've got a lot of questions for both of you. Our next presenter and our final presenter is a young man whose story truly moved my heart. As a survivor, he's working to change the narrative of criminal punishment and show the power of redemption and humanity. Please welcome Executive Director of the Community, Shannon Ross.
Thank you so much for the invite, Deb. Thank you everybody too for kind of a evening here where there's a lot of things that are going on. So it's always good to talk about peace, and very grateful for your time. My name is Shannon Ross, as Deb said. I want to talk a little bit about my personal story, and then I'll talk about kind of the work that we do because it ties in. And if there's a bit of an echo, it's because I'm on the phone because my computer's locked, so I can't get into that, and I'm in a bathroom because my son is out in the rest of the house running around. So bear with me on those 2 points. So my personal story, I'm from Milwaukee, born and raised, and around the age of 19, I went to prison for 17 years. I had just finished my freshman year at UWM, which is in Milwaukee, and ended up going to prison for a crime that is very much a connection to what Deb's experienced, and very much have been blessed to have grace and compassion from someone like Deb, and even a friendship in the work that we do now, because on my side I took a life when I was 19 and I served 17 years for that crime. And during that time I just had a lot of questions for myself about how did I get here, what does this mean, what future can I have? And it just was a lot of reading and writing and contemplation, and a whole lot of reflection on every day of where I failed and how can I do better tomorrow. And I was thinking today, even so many times, things that I struggle with now, that if the prison version of myself, who felt I was so prepared for all these moments, were to see the things that I struggle with sometimes, my prison version of myself would get pretty frustrated, because it would be saying, we prepared for this, like why are we still struggling with these things? But as we know, the reality of life is more complicated than we planned. So kind of going through my time in prison, I acquired my bachelor's degree in business administration. If you love anyone in your family and they ask about taking a business administration degree, do not let them. It's the most useless degree you can get. I was grateful to be able to at least turn that into a graduate degree post-release in sustainable peace building at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. And I also, while I was inside, writing a lot, writing some stuff that got published locally and nationally occasionally, I started this organization that I run now called The Community. in 2014. And it was just a newsletter, just me having a lot of stuff come across my path or things that I was reading about that I would share with people. And then I got to a point where my mother was a soon to retire newspaper reporter, and I had two friends who were formerly incarcerated that had time on their hands after they got out. And one of them worked at a copy shop, and I'm looking at these ingredients, and I'm like, okay, this looks like a newsletter. So I started that, and within, I don't know, a couple of years, it became the most widely read publication in the Wisconsin prison system. It's been going on for several years now, and we still have that. But now, after I got out in 2020, I was able to kind of turn that energy and experiences inside into a variety of different things that we do now. We have really two sides to our work. And the problem that essentially we're trying to solve that I can talk to before I talk about what our attempted solutions is, you have a lot of folks that are experiencing barriers in society post incarceration. A lot of people who are not able to get housing, a lot of people who are not able to get a job, get into school, or just transition and reintegrate into society in a successful way, because the experience of incarceration just weighs on you in a lot of ways. And it also has this barrier that legally you can't do certain things, right? And what it always stood out to me was I felt, and I believe I've confirmed this time and time again post release, is that we put more of a barrier on ourselves than actually other people do, right? Whereas there are legitimate barriers that exist, the story that we tell ourselves and the limitations we put on ourselves are much more powerful than the obstacles that we face in society. And I, time and time again, will find people across the country who are succeeding in virtually any career field you can think of. And why is that possible? We have so many people that still struggle. Well, it's possible because there genuinely is an ability and a pathway to succeed in almost any given career field or anything that you want to do. It's just more difficult, right? And so we are trying to, in our organization, address that narrative and address the way that people put those obstacles in front of their own way. And I'll get to that in a second, how we try to do that. The other side of it was that people in prison are not really prepared, right? We're not given a chance to prepare. You, at best, are given some programs or a vocational program or some, possibly good people around you, but it's luck of the draw if you find them. It's luck of the draw if you're somebody who has the HSCD or the behavioral record to get into a program. It's just not a smooth pathway to actually find your way successfully back into society. It's really, really hit or miss, and a lot of people never had a chance in the first place. So they're never going to get that chance when they go inside, right? They're just so far behind the eight ball with substance use issues, mental health issues, really unhealthy coping mechanisms, and just an unhealthy way overall of viewing the world and themselves. And so we expect them to save themselves in prison, right? And that doesn't happen necessarily. It's just a very much terrible way for us to try and address rehabilitation and giving people a second chance, as we call it. So a lot of our work on the inside is around preparing people and providing those pathways to success while they're inside from a human standpoint. So what I mean by that is, and if I get into some of the work that we do on our pre-entry side and our correcting the narrative side, our pre-entry side is all focused on meeting people where they are, no matter where they are in the system. Whether you just came in on a 20-year sentence and you need someone to help you see yourself as a human being so you can start developing into an employer, into a parent, instead of a student, whatever that might be, a citizen. Or if you are, close to release and you are trying to find out what's available, how can we hand you off to or provide you with resources and connections to places that once you release, they can take you to the next step. They can help you address those issues. So we just try to be there inside through educational programming we have, through a newsletter, through a learning platform that we are now about to launch very soon across the country, and through kind of a fellowship with ambassadors, people that are already leaders in different facilities, to help them grow other leaders. In all those ways, we try to prepare people as much as possible as human beings first, so that they can then develop themselves and their empowerment, their agency, to become successful in whatever path it is that they decide and they know is best for them. So when people get out, it ties into what is our solution for the narrative? We have our correcting the narrative work. And what we basically try to do with that is just address the fear, pity, and spectacle narrative that is oftentimes used to portray us in society. On the news, it's always negative things, well, largely negative things. Somebody committed a crime and they try to say, okay, so-and-so was in prison before, they were in jail, they just got out. So kind of it makes this view of people that have a record as just always going back or dangerous, or you should have fear when you meet somebody like that. So we try to promote the successes, the humanity, and the agency of people that have criminal records by telling more stories, telling more successful stories. and highlighting those in different ways. We have a podcast, we have a video series of success stories. We have the largest celebration of system impacted people in the state annually. Our fifth one is coming up, which I'll get to in a bit, in 2 weeks. We have a clothing line that we're starting to put out, which is another way for us to get in front of people with, ideas and concepts and literature to help them understand this issue better and to promote who we are as people that are formerly incarcerated. And we, also try and do now a lot of experiences and events to get people to come and engage through storytelling, through dinners, through simulations, to better understand this issue. And so kind of going forward, what our future is, it's really a lot of engagement with students and universities to try and get into the minds and the hearts of the future decision makers, people right now who are leading the charge in systems, judges, corrections, police, the politicians. These are all going to be the future versions of those people. And so if we can reach them now, we can have them better understand this topic and who we are collectively as a group and why it really is something that we being seen differently is beneficial to society, because us having more opportunities is beneficial to stable communities, less investment in people going back to prison, just a greater understanding all around it, as is the case for everybody, right? When we have more understanding and more compassion, that was talking about earlier, that is going to always lead to a healthier society. So we have our annual celebration coming up, November 3rd to the 6th. It's a week long of events. Almost everything is free. Our main event is $65. It's a ticketed event, but it doesn't have to be. People can definitely, come for free if the cost is really an issue. And so we just have simulations around the criminal legal system, what it's like to get to reenter society. We have 3 of those at UWM and Carroll University. We have a prison birth experience, which is something that, as Yolanda and Jessica were talking about, the Ostara Initiative is running that. And so they have a doula training inside the prison system right now. And so that's my son. And so, yes, okay, I'll be right there. I'll be right there. Okay, I'll be right there. I'll be right there. Yes. So yes, essentially, I'll put that information in the chat, and Deb could probably share it later. But those are great opportunities for anyone who's looking to learn more about this, to share it with people who need to learn more, or just to come and be inspired by all the success stories that really are going on in society. So again, I thank you for your time and for grace with kind of my my dumpster fire setup here to present.
Thank you, Shannon. I got a couple of questions for you. I just wanted to say to everyone, thank you for all of you for spending your precious time with us this evening and for listening to the passionate, powerful work these individuals are doing to build stronger and more compassionate communities. At this time, I will ask that you guys cut off the recording. And